Hi, I'm Keith Jones. You're watching ForBassPlayersOnly.com.
Hello and welcome to ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I'm Jon Liebman, founder and first baseman. You know, a lot of people think they're too old or it's too late for them to learn how to play an instrument. So I created ForBassPlayersOnly.com for adults who want to learn bass because I believe you're never too old and it's never too late to experience the joy and the pleasure of making music. ForBassPlayersOnly.com. Let's play bass. My special guest this week is Keith Jones. Keith was born and raised in Kingston, Jamaica, surrounded by all kinds of music. He studied and became pretty serious with classical guitar until one day he heard Ron Carter's bass on a Freddie Hubbard record, and it changed his life, and he started learning bass very seriously. As a bass player, Keith has performed and or toured with Bob Marley, Kenny Loggins, Santana, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Wayne Shorter, Al Jarreau, Jean-Luc Ponty, Keb Mo, Flora Purim, and Airto Moriera. The list just goes on and on. Keith's bass can also be heard on movie soundtracks, including How Stella Got Her Groove Back and Basic Instinct, and on commercials for Coca-Cola and Jelly Belly Jelly Beans. These days, Keith is spending much of his time in the recording world. In addition to his impressive resume as a bass player, Keith is a Grammy-nominated producer and recording engineer who's recorded, mixed, or mastered a long list of major projects from Brazilian jazz to alternative rock, reggae, jazz, Latin, and world music. He currently runs CGS Spatial and Record It Live in Southern California, along with Carlos Flood. This is his second time on For Bass Players Only. Hello, Keith. Welcome back.
Hello, John. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
We've got to stop meeting like this.
Well, the last time we saw each other, it was your last interview, actually. It was at a Summer NAMM show in 2018. At the MTD booth, Mike Tobias, with all those gorgeous basses he makes.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a few years ago. Why don't you bring us up to date? What's going on? What's keeping you busy these days?
Oh, so much has happened. My daughter graduated from Vanderbilt. My grandson, yes, indeed.
Vanderbilt in Nashville?
In Nashville, yes. That was part of the reason I was there, to be shadow dad. Although I told her I was there for other reasons. What else has happened? My grandson graduated from University of California with his degree in psychology. My ex-wife, who I still love dearly, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro last year.
Wow.
I mean, lots has happened. A lot of things have happened. I moved back to California. I lasted about 10 months in Nashville, and California just kept calling me. So I packed up whatever I could in my SUV, sold the rest, and drove back to California to start all over again. So. Yeah, that was 4 years ago, July 4th.
Okay, and you've got this recording studio that I mentioned, and tell me about that. I saw a bunch of pictures of some familiar faces on your website: Marco Mendoza, Joey Heredia, Bob Hurst. It looks like you run quite an operation.
Oh well, these are all good, dear friends and people I admire a lot as musicians. So, when we started the company years ago, even before I left to go to Florida, which is at least 10 years ago, with Carlos, the way we got our project off the ground was just to go around recording friends, asking for their permission. So we ended up doing some stuff at the Baked Potato, Spaghettini's. But we knew the owners, so they trusted that we wouldn't interfere with their performance, and we didn't. But there's some really cool stuff from those venues on the Recorded Live website that we did with Carlos. So anyway, since then I've been back here. It was a bit of a shock to come back to LA after being in Nashville, and where gas was $2.19, I think, at that time. I got to LA and it was like $5 a gallon.
Yeah, it's even more than that now. My son lives out there.
Yeah, it's more than that now. I'm talking about when I made the move back.
Yeah.
So it was a shock, and just trying to find a place to land, an affordable place.
Yeah.
That was a challenge.
Yes. But
I did get lucky and found a place to build this beautiful studio that I have here. It's about 1,000 square feet, commercial space. This is in San Pedro, California, which is probably, I should have moved here when I first came to California. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's a gem.
That's Mike Watt country. He's always talking about San Pedro.
Yeah, and the Minutemen. Remember the Minutemen? Yeah, it's kind of a punk rock. It's definitely a center for punk rock. Actually, right next door to me is a punk rock club called Sardines.
Okay,
that's my next door neighbor.
Nice. Hey, just on a tangent here, you mentioned Florida, you mentioned Carlos Santana, and because I interviewed Benny Rietveld, I think for the second or third time, I think it was last year, and I thought he had been with Carlos since like the early 90s. So when did you play with Carlos? Was he off, or was it a separate?
No, he actually, I was with Carlos from 86 to 89.
Well, wait a minute. I saw Alphonso Johnson.
Right. Alfonso and I shared from 87 on. Alfonso and I kind of shared the seat.
Well, I was at that concert in Sunrise, Florida, or Fort Lauderdale at the Sunrise Theater.
Right.
Some guy jumped up on the stage, and I said to my friend, I said, "That's Jocko." So I was there that night. I saw.
Oh, Jocko did a jump in.
Jumped up on the stage after Alfonso had played a solo, and he stood next to him. Alfonso was very tall. Jocko reached way up like this and pointed his finger down over Alfonso's head as if to say to the audience, "Hey, give it up for Alfonso." And the security guys just grabbed him and dragged him off. And I've talked to Alfonso about it a few times. And you know what happened later that night. But I was there that night. It was a great concert. And who else was playing out there? Oh, I think the Neville Brothers or something, somebody like that warmed up. But yeah, well, like I said, on a tangent. So
yeah, well, on that same topic, we had some pretty wonderful experiences, because there was one occasion in Europe with Carlos, and so Alfonso did the first part of the tour, then he couldn't make the second part of the tour. So I get the call. So I fly out to Europe. I forget what city it was, and so a lot of Carlos's stuff at that time was improvised. It's a 3-hour set. So the first hour is kind of like the hits, and then after that you just kind of make it up. He turn to you and go, "Hey, start something." So at any rate, for this particular tour, there was no time to rehearse. So the only way you can learn this stuff is to actually be there. So I think for a week or more, we were both on stage together, Alfonso and myself.
Oh, wow.
So there were two bass players as we were making the transition from Alfonso to me on the tour, during the tour. So
any videos of that? I'd love to see that.
I'm pretty sure there's videos somewhere. But yeah, that was a treat because I love Alfonso dearly. I've known him. I remember meeting him. He probably doesn't remember this. It was with the trumpet player.
Oh yeah, Hugh Messick. No. No, I was thinking he played with Sergio Mendes, but he's not a trumpet player. But
anyway, so I actually met him uh, uh, in Toronto, playing there, and then met him again when I moved to LA to play with Flora Purim because he had just finished doing that album, Open Your Eyes, You Can Fly. And I toured behind that album. That was my entry into California was through, and Alfonso would come out to the gigs, he'd be peeking out from behind the curtain, kind of a shy person, he's not one to sit up front like Stanley Clarke was like front row. He's a front row guy.
Yeah, funny.
Awesome. So anyway, we were friends from way back then, and we just kind of stayed friends.
Is he still at USC?
I don't know. I don't. I've been away, and I'm actually living in close to Long Beach now, so I'm not really in the LA area. But I used to see him when I lived in Van Nuys. We'd run into each other at the grocery store and that kind of stuff. Wonderful guy. Love him to death.
Yeah. I've interviewed him, I don't know, 3-4 times. We hung out in Germany together. Also, we were at the Warwick. I was there like 3 or 4 times, and those hangs were amazing. Let me hear you talk a little bit more about your studio. You do both mobile recording and in studio recording, as well as all the mixing and mastering. Is that right?
Yes, actually, that's all included in what we offer.
Tell me.
I've always been interested in surround sound. I've been mixing in surround sound for like 20 years. I got interested in it in 1969 in college when I figured out I could do some electronic wizardry on speakers and end up with sounds coming from speakers in the back, and Jimi Hendrix was perfect for that stuff. And Jimi Hendrix
at University of Michigan. You mentioned that.
University of Michigan, right?
Go Wolverines!
Go Wolverines!
Go Blues!
So at any rate, I've been interested in sound since forever. So as I was building home studios, I always wanted more than 2 speakers, always. So as soon as I could, as soon as it became available, I think it was Digital Performer 1.8 or something, they implemented surround sound. This is like 25 years ago. This is way before Pro Tools or any one of those fancy DAWs. But so I've been mixing in surround sound in 5.1 for like the last 20 something years, mostly for my own enjoyment and a few artistic clients who appreciated that kind of thing. We ended up doing music for like art galleries that would accompany the shows, the art exhibitions, and we'd set up big speakers, or up high, and just had, so basically it was themed score music for the art. We'd study the art and compose music that went along with the visual. So that's been happening forever. So it evolved into what it is now. I think it was a year ago, April or May or something like that, Apple came out with their spatial audio that you could actually that was streamed, and you could actually hear it through a binaural system in your headphones. So now it became available. You didn't have to spend, a gazillion dollars to buy all the speakers. You could actually experience this in your headphones off of your iPhone or your iPad or your computer.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So they figured that out. And here we are in the age of Dolby Atmos. And I've been telling people about it before it came out, because I got wind of it before it actually was dropped. And people are going, oh, who's going to listen to that stuff? Right? No, you can't turn a corner without Dolby Atmos this and Dolby Atmos that, and everybody's buying, their 25th speaker to go in their system, and speaker manufacturers are having a blast right now. We're in the wrong business, John.
Hey, you know what you remind me of? I watched that long Beatles documentary, and I had heard about Magic Alex, but he was in this documentary. Does that name ring a bell with you? Do you know who he was?
No.
Oh, really?
On that.
Oh, he was a guy who fancied himself as this studio mogul, and George was talking about it. He said he had little tiny speakers all over the place. It was chaos. I mean, he said
absolute chaos.
Couldn't get anything to work, and it was I don't know, just hearing you talk about all the advancements in technology, you should look him up, Magic Alex, and you'll be flooded with all kinds of information. Hey, so how much bass playing are you able to do these days, either on any of the recordings or projects you're working on, or live playing?
I have been bitten by the tech bug, in a major way. And I have not been playing a lot of bass, although somebody that I play with regularly and absolutely love it is Greg Perret from Dancing Guitar. He was the guitarist of Dancing with the Stars on Dancing with the Stars for like all season. I think it was 10 seasons.
Wow.
And before I left California the first time, we used to do a little duo gig at a place called Red, White, and Blues, and we did that for 4 years, playing the matinee show every Tuesday, and it was just acoustic guitar and bass. That was it, and we developed. And he's a prolific writer. I mean, to the point where he'll go, "Hey man, I just sketched this out, just before I left the house. Here, let's play this." And he just drop a chart on you, and you'd make it up. But what that did for my playing, it gave me a really strong rhythmic sense.
Yeah, when there's no drummer, you have to play a little busier than you normally would.
Well, not just busy, but just keeping the groove, the pulse, and there are ways to do that without playing a lot of notes, actually.
Yeah. That's what I meant to say. What's what I should have said. Yeah, but it's a duo is a whole different vibe.
Right. So we still do that today. I mean, he was one of the first people to call me when I got back to California. Said, "Hey man, you want to do those duo gigs that we used to do?" So we've been doing that. Actually, I have a couple of gigs this month with him, and that's pretty much what I've been doing.
All right. Well,
it's easy. You show up. It's beautiful music. He's a wonderful player, Greg Perret, and you look him up sometime. Yeah,
that's great. How do you spell Perret?
Poree.
Okay. About speaking of playing bass,
yes,
For Bass Players Only is primarily a bass instruction site, and I've got people from all over the world coming every day to ForBassPlayersOnly.com to learn how to play bass.
Yes,
most of the people that I'm attracting tend to be men in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I've got some even older than that. I do get a fair bit of women, but it's mostly men. And they're not trying to make a career in music. They're not trying to set the world on fire. They just want to play some classic rock riffs with their buddies, or they want to play some blues shuffles, or maybe some walking bass, or a little funk R&B. So they just want to have fun. And a lot of times when you get to that age, things kick in, like arthritis and tendonitis and things that happen to some people as we get older. So I'm just telling you this to create a context. So now that you have an idea of the audience that I'm talking about, what advice can you impart to somebody like that who wants to learn to play bass? What do you think they should be thinking about, striving for?
Well, there are a couple of ways you can look at the instrument. You can look at the instrument as an instrument that accompanies other instruments, right? Which, I mean, that's good enough, but then you always need to have somebody else there. If you're just playing roots and fifths, it's like, yeah, okay. But without the guitar player and the drummer and the keyboard player, it's just roots and fifths. How exciting can that be?
Oh.
So, but there's another approach to bass playing, and actually a lot of the younger bass players take this approach, where they look at the instrument as a melodic instrument. So consider playing, say, it might sound pretty complicated, but it's not that hard. Like, say, the Bach cello suites, where it still all fits on the instrument, but it becomes a melodic instrument and a harmonic instrument. So you're just not playing doon 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 doon. So you're not just doing that, but you're playing. See, now you can play that all on your own and have a blast and expand it from there. So I would recommend learn melodies. Just learn the melodies. If you're learning a tune, actually pick out the melody on the bass. Like, instead of just playing the bass note, just learn that stuff, and it will open up a whole new experience, whole new world as a bassist who is just by themselves.
Okay, you mean unaccompanied bass?
Unaccompanied bass, yes.
Okay, so that is a whole big departure from the traditional role and the function of the bass. I was trying to see where you were going with this, because it sounded like, well, my first thought was, well, you better be very, very careful if you're going to add that many notes and melodic, and using the analogy of the Bach cello suites, which, by the way, I played on the upright. Those are
but it's beautiful though. I mean, once you get it under your fingers and you start,
you
realize that I don't need no stinking drummer. I don't need that keyboard player. Who needs a keyboard player? Get that guy out of here.
Are you saying just for fun then? I mean, you wouldn't play with other people and do that stuff unless you're talking about a solo, or unless you're talking about a very strategically thought out bass line that is supporting the band or accompanying the band. I don't think you're talking about that. You're talking about, who needs a band almost. There's plenty I can do all by myself. Can you help me out here? I want to know exactly what you're saying.
Well, when you're studying the instrument, it really makes sense to learn all the melodic content and to learn the harmonies. So you actually know what you're playing against, right? And you'll find that as you get more into learning the melodic part, that you can play more. You can play more than just the root. You can pick some other notes that, so the bass actually becomes another voice, not just a support instrument. So the way to get there is to learn melody. You know, it makes a lot of sense. So, and then you find that when you do play with other people, you'll make adjustments depending on what the instrumentation is. You know, obviously, if there's a keyboard player and all that space is being filled up, you're going to play less. But if it's a trio gig, even if it's a rock trio gig, Geddy Lee, hello, you know.
I love it. I love what you're saying. As long as it fits the song and you have the musical discipline and the musical maturity to know when it's okay to do that and when you do need to play root or root fifth.
Exactly. But before you can even get there, you have to know the entire song.
Right. Keep it in your back pocket. Pull it out if and when
you got to know what the melody is. You got to know what the chords are.
Absolutely.
I mean, if it's a G, it's a G. And then you can really mess with them sometimes and play a B. And they'll go, ooh, oh, that's really cool. You know, before you hit that C for that next chord, right?
I interviewed Ron Carter a few months ago, and we had a very spirited conversation about roots. Mm-hmm. And he says, you want some roots? Come down to my house and we'll walk down the street to the farmer's market and I'll show you some roots there. He says, why would I play a root on the downbeat every time a new chord is introduced? I mean,
exactly.
You folks, Ron Carter, the one from 2023. It's great. He was such a gentleman about it. I just kept coming back. I said, but there's an expectation. He says, yeah, but I have my thing and I'm fitting in and this is fitting in with that. If it, it was actually quite enlightening.
Well, it in the same spirit, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, and it really doesn't matter the genre as long as it's done tastefully and musically.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, tell me about your bass gear. What kind of basses are you playing? Strings, amps, effects, if any, all that good stuff.
Well, right now I'm very happy with my Eden 110 cabinet. Yes, it's an amazing little cabinet, that Eden. And I actually use it for small reggae gigs. It's a single 10 with a coaxial horn, so it's full range. It's perfect for the duo playing, perfect size. And I have a Walter Woods.
I have a Walter Woods.
Yes, I forget what the model is. It's just a stereo model. It's very old. Somebody gave it to me, and fits in my backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a one tripper because I'm a one tripper. You know, I don't want to have to make two trips anymore to get the gear. So it's the bass, the head fits in a backpack, you know, with the cables and this speaker cabinet that's this big that can cover a small room, no problem.
I bought Walter Woods in 1980.
That's about the same vintage as mine. This is the stereo one. It's actually it's 700 watts. This thing, it's 350 watts a side.
It's not near the power. I think
it fits in the backpack. It's this big. It's the predecessor of all those miniature. Who makes them? Aguilar makes them, and all those small. Yes.
I went to Walter's house one time back in the late 80s.
Tell me about Walter. I hear he was quite a character.
Just a regular guy. You say was. Is he still alive?
I think he is. I hope he is, because if anything breaks on those amps, he's the only one who can fix them.
I know. I heard he
keep him alive.
Had health problems years back, and nobody's really sure what's up with him. And I tried calling him. He would always get back to me. And I don't know how many times I just never heard back from him. And I was kind of worried about him, actually. But yeah, those are great amps. What about your basses? What's your main go-to bass?
I'm still Right now, I'm back on the tunes. I just I can't seem to escape them. Because the long scale bass really suits my style, the 36 and a half.
Yeah.
So I'm playing the Bullseye, the tune Bullseye. I'm back on that. With the Jim Williams electronics. I think he says they're flat down to like 2 cycles, and I believe him. Like it's some ridiculous it's like from 20K to 2 cycles is preamps, and they're all discrete. They're built with discrete components, and he puts the whole thing together. And are you familiar with Jim Williams at all?
No, I don't believe
Audio. Yes, his company is called Audio Upgrades.
Okay.
And he's famous in the tech world. He's from way back. He was one of those guys who would mod your ADAT.
Okay.
Right? He'd take your ADAT, and by the time he's done with it, it became like this super recorder, you know.
I remember my first book, which came out in 1992. So I recorded the tracks for that, I guess in 1992 on an ADAT, and sent it in to the publisher with a floppy disk for all the. Oh man, the world has changed.
Yeah, my first studio started with ADATs, with 3 ADATs. That's 24 tracks of digital recording. If you could ever get them to sync up, you're in business. So kind of fast forward to now. So Apple came out with their spatial audio that you could stream, and kaboom, there we are. Here we are in this world where all the naysayers who were going, well, man, nobody will ever be able to listen to that stuff, Now all the publishers are asking for a Dolby Atmos. For a Dolby Atmos version, because it's pretty much become a requirement.
Yeah. What do they ask me for? And then 44 point, what was sampling, whatever it is. And I don't speak that language.
Well, don't get me started on that language, because
okay, I won't, because I won't understand it anyway.
We'll definitely go down a rabbit hole. But at any rate, so the system here it's a 13 speaker system. Yeah. So there are like 4 overhead speakers and 7 around, and 2 subwoofers. There's one in the front, one in the back. And to simplify it a little bit, the whole premise is borrowed from the film industry, from the Dolby systems from the film industry. And basically what it is, instead of having the sound come from each speaker, the sound is actually a point in space that has metadata associated with it. It's holographic sound.
I'm sure it sounds unbelievable in the studio, but what is the advantage of having a setup like that if you're recording something that people are going to listen to in their car or with their powered beats or even at home?
Well, with their beats, you can the fold down to that, with the fold down to two speakers, it gets folded down to what's called binaural.
Okay.
So the sounds that are coming from all those directions, because notice I didn't say from those speakers.
All right.
Because they're not coming from the speakers anymore. It's a point in space that's being defined by an XYZ that's being recorded as metadata.
All right.
These files are huge, right? But so all that stuff for headphones now, for spatial audio or for binaural audio, it's now recombined in such a way that you get a similar. I was gonna say the same, but it's not the same. You get a similar sensation from headphones.
I remember reading something years ago about a recording that was done in a concert hall, and instead of just hanging the mics or putting them where they would normally,
They had the head. They used the head.
The difference. Astounding.
Yeah. Well, the head is kind of the reverse of the binaural system, because it calculates what your ears might be doing in terms of, there's a delay. This sound gets here later than this sound, so then you perceive it as coming from over there.
Oh, is that how it's done? That makes sense.
Yeah, because they're arriving at your ears at different times, and the brain is decoding all this. Like, yeah, we do have a brain. It's a fascinating instrument.
Yeah. Getting back to the gear, you told me about amps and you told me about your basses. What kind of strings do you play?
I'm still playing LaBella.
Still playing LaBella. Are you a LaBella artist?
I'm a LaBella artist. I've been a LaBella artist for how many years now? I forget when they stopped charging me. but yeah, Richard Coco, he's a wonderful, wonderful man. I remember one time he had a stopover in San Francisco, and he actually took a taxi to my house during the stopover just to visit, just to say hi. And every time we play in New York, we'd meet up, we'd go have a great Italian meal or something. He's a wonderful guy.
Yeah. I've gotten to know Eric and Lorenza. Eric had me over to their place in Brooklyn.
Uh-huh.
And, a few people were there. Yeah, it was like 4 of us. We had pizza and we hung out.
It's old style Italian family get together. That's the vibe.
But there must be a reason you've stuck with them for so many years. What is it? I mean, there's other strings out there. Why do you prefer LaBella over all the others?
Well, in the beginning, I used to use Rotosound.
Mm-hmm.
That before I discovered the LaBella strings, I kind of stumbled on them because I couldn't find the Rotosound. So, and I like the steel, the round wound steel sound. And they were everybody was switching to this nickel thing that didn't suit they were a little too light and airy for my style. And as I got into using longer scale basses, they would actually wind me strings that were that length, because you couldn't find 36-inch length strings. And I mean, talking about Richard and how he's so helpful to musicians. He loves musicians, which is as a manufacturer, I mean, you think about it, he really has a healthy respect. But it's just from his family. I use LaBella strings on my acoustic guitars.
Yeah.
In 1962. And I think that's what sold him on it. I said, man, I've been using your strings since 1962. And it was like, really? Because that was his, I think that was his dad's company, E.O. Mari?
Yeah, M-A-R-I.
Yeah.
E.O. Mari, yeah, that's it.
So I have a long history with the string. So I think that kind of solidified our
great company, great people.
So yeah, so he would actually have to retool his string winder to wind these long scale strings for me.
Oh, he must love you.
No, well, as it became, was it? The longer scale basses became more popular, so it became something that you could purchase. You could just order and purchase. But yeah, it's plus I just love the sound of the strings.
Yeah. Yeah, they are great, and they make great upright strings too.
Yes, they're on my upright bass right there.
You do play upright. I asked you last time, do you play upright? You said I did for a minute. Has that changed?
I bought one during COVID.
Oh, okay.
Because of course there was time.
So you're working out with it? Are you?
I am having fun. I've done a few sessions. I mean, I wouldn't play it on a gig, mostly because I I would really need to do some work on getting a pickup system, because it's a really hard thing to translate on a gig, but put a nice microphone in front of it, put a nice ribbon up in front of it, man, and yeah.
Yeah, I've done a lot of Broadway shows, and when I had upright, they would, they wouldn't take my line out from my pickup. They'd put up, just a kind of mic, and
exactly put a mic. So, but
to hit it with the bow. But
I think John Patitucci has the absolute best upright bass sound I have ever heard, ever.
What kind of does he use?
I don't know, but I can't afford it.
Hey, what about the future, Keith? What else have you got on the horizon? Either something in the works or something that you've always wanted to do but just haven't gotten around to yet?
Well, I'm back to writing a little bit. Kind of felt the need, like during COVID again. But most of my writing I'm doing, and I went back to playing acoustic guitar. It's just the acoustic bass and the guitar, because I had the time and the space and the serenity of not running around doing a whole bunch of stuff all the time. And so I kind of got back into those things, and I've been composing some guitar stuff again, like more in the classical vein. So we'll see where that goes. And I have a wonderful string arranger here. So I'll just send him the stuff, and he'll do mock-ups on it, and I'll go, really? Is that what I wrote? That's not what I wrote. That's beautiful. He adds the string parts and whatnot. So that's kind of what's happening on the musical side. And of course the gigs with Greg. And he's, like I said, he's a prolific writer, so there's never any shortage of stuff to study. And he'll just drop that stuff on you on a gig. It's like, yeah, I just wrote this. Okay. So you take it home and study it, and so that keeps me busy musically. But in the main, it's about production, and I'm really deeply involved and fascinated with the sound of the Dolby Atmos, and having sound come from everywhere. It's a whole other experience.
Well, next time I'm in San Pedro, my wife and I did drive through there a few months ago. But
man, I know some great restaurants. I'll take you out.
After we'll see your studio, then we'll go, and then we'll go back to the studio.
well, unfortunately, my favorite restaurant is 2 blocks away.
Unfortunately,
Italian American restaurants. Yes, so we'll definitely hit trainees.
Sounds great. Well, I'm so glad you're able to do something that you're so passionate about, and that you leave. I'm sure you look forward to getting up every morning and going into work.
I'm always at work. Even before I get up in the morning, I'm going, how can I get the sound to move from here to there and make it sound like bubbles, and then I'm underwater? Like, how could we make that happen? So it's like that. It's a creative process. It's like being an artist.
Yeah,
with sound and just figuring out ways using the available technology.
Yeah. Well, keep doing what you're doing. It sounds awesome. And the studio again is called CGS Spatial, and Record It Live. Is that two businesses, or is that
it's two? Yeah, it's two separate. It's the same umbrella, but it's two. Record It Live. We go out and we do.
That's your mobile.
Yeah, that's the mobile and then CGS and CGS Spatial. That's the Dolby Atmos mixing.
What does CGS stand for?
Cerro Gordo Studios.
Okay.
Or Cerro Gordo Sound, whichever one you want. It just came from the name of the street that we lived on in Echo, close to Echo Park.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't think of anything better. What do you want to call it? What's the name of the street? Cerro Gordo? Okay. I'll do.
Yeah.
Is that registered? So we just registered that.
Funny. Keith, it's always such a pleasure getting together, talking with you. I look forward to the next time we'll do it, hopefully in person. And I'll take you up on that Italian meal.
Oh, definitely. You're on.
All right. Much luck and continued success to you always.
Thank you so much. And, in the meantime, go check out some of I'm going to be posting some demos in Dolby Atmos on Apple Music probably in the next week or so. So if you have a set of earbuds and an iPhone and you're willing to pay the $10 a month to Apple, it's worth it.
Already doing that, and I told my wife, and she says, "Well, I'd like that too." So now we're paying. They have a package for two.
Yes, but you're probably already listening in Dolby Atmos and might or might not be aware of it.
It's very possible.
Yes, but enjoy the experience, and I'll let you know when that stuff is posted.
Please do. Please do. I look forward to it. Thank you, Keith. You're watching ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I'm Jon Liebman, founder and first baseman. A lot of people think they're too old or it's too late for them to learn how to play an instrument. So I created ForBassPlayersOnly.com for adults who want to learn to play bass, because I believe you're never too old and it's never too late to experience the joy and the pleasure of making music. ForBassPlayersOnly.com, this is the place to learn bass. Thanks again to my special guest, Keith Jones. I'll see you all same time, same place next week right here at ForBassPlayersOnly.com. In the meantime, let's play bass.